ask each of you to type into the chat, how long do you think the college application process takes from start to finish? You can respond to everyone if you want to, or just privately to me. How long do you think the college application process takes from start to finish? Go ahead and chat that in. I'm going to see what we come up with here. All right, about 2 months, 5 months, 2 months, 4 months. All right, so months, good. Good, okay, good. I'm glad that we have a good realistic expectation here. So we've got a range from, it looks like 2 to 5 months, and all of that sounds reasonable. And so while it might take us a few hours to work on a certain part of the application, there's many different steps. And that's good that we have a clear understanding of that right now. Let's see. All right, so as we get organized with your application, 3 things to remember is to complete your research ahead of time. Figure out what kind of schools you're looking at, the factors that you typed into the chat about factors that are important to you for the schools you're applying to. So you've already started your research, that's great. Then setting some realistic goals and visiting those campuses. Those campuses have a lot of virtual visits set up now, but once the campuses reopen in the fall or summer, whenever that time comes, that's another great way to see if it's a good fit for us and if they have the actual opportunities that we're looking for in those campuses. All right, so here we go. These are the application types that we have access to right now. So today, a lot of us want to learn about the Common Application, which is accepted by many, many schools. The Coalition app is also an opportunity to apply to certain schools. And what these applications are is that you complete the information once, and then it can go out to as many of the schools that are on your list that accept that application type. So there's also a Common Black College application, which is for historically Black colleges and universities. You can fill that out once and it would go to all of the member institutions for that application. The universal application is becoming a little bit less popular. And then the final one is an institutional or individual school application. So that would be, for example, if the University of Lynchburg has an application by the University of Lynchburg on their website, some schools still operate solely on their individually run application. And so these are part of the research process, seeing what applications each school will accept. All right, next part, getting organized. We all have different ways of being organized, so I'm not going to try to tell you the one best way to be organized, but just having a system and a communication channel with your school counselor, with your parents, with everybody who's in your corner in this application process can help them be able to support you while you are going through this process. All right, and then we have several ways that this process is available to you to receive assistance and to help save money throughout the process. So we have workshops, we have assistance with your scholarships and FAFSA. During college application week in November, which is the week before Thanksgiving, all college applications can be submitted for free for all students in Lynchburg City Schools. So that's a great way to save money. Looking ahead at the process, if we have our application prepared, we can just submit it that week and save money that way. And then of course the individual advising. There we go. And then we'll send this out. This will be our contact information for Dr. Glover and myself. If you have any questions after today that you want to follow up with individually regarding your application process, this will be our contact information. I see it coming through. Is that 3 weeks before most early decision apps are due? So the general college application week is kind of in the middle of those deadlines. And so if there is a school that you're applying to before actual college application week, you can reach out to your Future Center director and we can work through that with you to see if there's other fee waivers available. But that week isn't set by us, it's set by the Commonwealth of Virginia. So it's when all schools in the Commonwealth are participating in that initiative. All right, here's another good one. What is FAFSA? So FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and that is the first step of the process for scholarships and financial aid. So when we're thinking about this as a process, it's a good idea to start with the admissions process and then move into the financial aid process. You can overlap or wait to do them simultaneously, but with planning ahead, we push our students to work on the admissions side first because those deadlines come first, and then transition over to FAFSA and financial aid. And we'll actually have another workshop for that if you want to learn more details about that later. But that is the first step for receiving scholarships and financial aid. Good question. All right. So now I'm going to clear out of this screen and show you the actual Common App, the sample accounts that I have, and show you the features so that you can get started and know what to expect and kind of how to navigate what the options are in there. So give me just a second and I will transfer out of this screen. Control Shift H. Okay, so I'm going to start with Common App. As we saw, the Common App has the most schools that accept it. It's over 900, and so we're going to start with that because a lot of schools are on the Common App. So when you get in here, you'll get to the screen where you have to make an account. So I'm going to jump through that already, and your screen will bring you here. And so you will want to start, if you're taking notes, this would be a good place to start. Start with your college search, and then you can add in all the schools that are accepted by Common App into your college's feed right here. So these are the schools I've already added in, but I'm going to show you how to look for them. When I start, I like to just put in, where's the state? Put in Virginia or whichever state that you are looking at, going to. And now you can see there's 26 schools and scholarship organizations that accept the Common App. So you can just kind of scroll through, and as you press the plus sign, it would populate into your My Colleges field. It's rather simple. And then you can just add those in. So the check mark means I've already added that in. So then from there, it populates here, and you can see your list of Common App schools that could potentially accept your application if you complete with the process. On this screen, there's also something else that I'd like to show you, the application requirements. This is the Great Organization tool. It pulls up a spreadsheet of all the schools, or you can switch it to say My Colleges only, and then it shows all the deadlines. So it goes early decision, early action, rolling, pull my screen over, there we go. Goes into all these different policies and requirements for each school. And so this, if you notice, this is still last year's requirements. There may be some updates for your SAT and ACT requirements due to some of us not being able to test this spring. And so colleges are working on making sure that you can still fill out your application, even if you don't have your scores ready to go. All right, I'm going to go back here. Then we have My Colleges tab. Within each college is something called a supplement. And so if we scroll down to, let's go to UVA here, we can see what specific things they might require that are extra from the Common App general application, all right? So that's kind of, that I like to use as the last step, but Common App right here is the majority of what you'll be filling out. And so this information is filled out and sent to whichever colleges you select. And once you send it, it freezes what was in it at that time and it goes to that school. So if you send it, it's not like a Google document where if you make updates, it will be reflected. They're frozen like a PDF. And so that's what is sent off. So when you're getting started here, you'll just go on through, and as you see the green check mark in each of these sections for profile, family, education, testing, activities, writing, and courses, that will mean that you have completed that section. The little red star here is a required piece of information, and so once all the pieces all of the sections with the red star been filled in, you'll have a green check mark on that box. Let's see. For writing, we're going to have certain schools that require the writing section, the essay, and certain schools that don't. So you can click right into this feature and it will show you which schools require and which schools don't require. And then you can scroll on down and see your options for those essays. We're not going to focus on that too much today. We actually have another college essay mini workshop that will be later on this month that you can sign up for, and we'll show you how to get started with those. I'm going to go up again here to activities. A little tip for activities is looking right here, list the activities in the order of their importance to you. You can list up to 10 activities here, and the average amount of activities that gets listed on the Common App is about 6. So don't feel like you have to find 10 to put in there. Find what's most valuable to you, what things you've been passionate about up to this point, and you can include those in this activity section. It's kind of like a resume in this format. And then I'm going to touch on courses and grades. Certain schools will require you to type in everything off of your transcript into this section, but currently the ones that I have in my list aren't asking to do that. They're asking for an official transcript. So if you come into any part of the application that you're unsure about, all you need to do is reach out to your school counselor or reach out to your Future Center director, and we can walk you through those steps. We have a lot of experience working through the various types of applications, and we also get email updates for things that have changed from the previous year to the current year. And so we're really happy to help walk through some of these steps that are going to be in this application process. Sometimes they're nested in there, and so we're happy to be a resource if you'd like some help working through that. All right, we're going to go to family section. Just a tip here is that you may want to have time where you can sit down with your parent or guardian when you're working through this section, because it asks certain things that you may not have memorized. And so just know that some of these questions are going to require a little bit of input from your family. Then the last one here, education, is just where you say that you go to EC Glass or Heritage. And once this section has the green check mark in it, then you can add in your recommenders over here. So it's going to say, if you get a warning here, it just is going to mean that you have to finish your education screen before you can finish some of these sections over here. All right, that's the Common App in a nutshell. And I'm going to take a quick look here, see if I've glossed over anything. There we go. Perfect. How many teacher recommendations do we need? I'm going to show you where that is listed, because every school has a different requirement. So if we go back to application requirements right here and switch to my colleges. Hold on, it's hard for me to see this on my screen. There we go. There it is. So recommendations. So we've got University of Lynchburg doesn't require teacher. Here we go. If you're not sure what something is, you just click on this little button. And so TE, teacher evaluations, and other evaluations, and then CR is counselor recommendation. So you can see Notre Dame has one teacher evaluation requirement and then one counselor recommendation requirement. And that's where you can find that. So as a rule of thumb though, as far as you asking teachers to write letters of recommendation, you can ask more than is required, and they will save in your Common App, and you can select which teacher recommendation goes into which application. And so that's a feature that exists. I'll show you, where's that go? Back over here. Once you've completed the education section, you would complete that in each school's supplement that would say which teacher you want matched up, or which other recommender you want matched up according to each school's requirements. That was a good question. Okay, so if we go to a separate school like early college or gov school, do we put that in a separate thing on the education tab? So yes, so there are certain areas in the education tab where you can list other enrollment. So your base enrollment is still early college, but you'll say that you have credits to transfer in from those programs. And so that will all be nested in to this section. If you want me to take a look at what that looks like, or your school counselor, they can definitely walk you through that alongside completion. And then, oh, let me show you something else. Once you get into, I wish I completed my education tab, but I didn't. But once you get in here and you assign recommenders, you can also recommend somebody as an advisor, which means they can see your application but not change anything onto it. So some families will have the parent on as an advisor. Some students will ask for one of us, one of the Future Center directors, to be an advisor. You can link your school counselor in, and the school counselors have viewing plus recommending rights in there. And so that's a great way to get feedback on how you have inputted information, especially now that we are virtual. Adding an advisor in gives someone access to view only what you have started. All right, here's another question. Should we start asking for recommendations now? So if you know who you want to be your recommenders, you definitely can. It gives them extra time to write that letter and know it's forthcoming. It's a good idea when you ask someone to give them some sort of deadline so they know, what time frame they have to submit this. So while you can start on your applications now, the rollover for seniors usually happens at that first week of August, where the application becomes live. So just because you have access to starting your information here doesn't mean you can submit to every school right now. Does that make sense? All right, if there's any other questions, go ahead and type those in. I'm going to do a quick preview on Coalition. Also, if you're applying to University of Virginia, they exclusively use the Common App. If you're applying to Virginia Tech, they exclusively use the Coalition. And so as you are starting your process, the research part, it's important to see what schools use which application. So it would be a shame if you completed the whole Common App and then realized, oh, I'm applying to Virginia Tech and they don't even use the Common App. Now I have to do the Coalition. So go ahead and you can research. I have a tab pulled up from Notre Dame. So on their most schools admissions page, it'll tell you how to apply. So it says they accept Common App, Coalition App, and a QuestBridge application. So you would be safe to apply on either one. If you go to the Tech or UVA website, you'll see that they prefer one over the other. So that would be your starting point. Also, I'm going to touch on one more thing with Common App. As you look through and do some research on what other application types are accepted, if you are applying to only one school on Common App, you might want to check if that school is also accepted in a different way. So if they have an individual application, maybe that's the application you would want to complete instead of going through all the steps of the Common App. And so while we're at this point, it's a great time to research which schools accept which types of applications and what is going to be the best use of your time, because this is pretty time intensive if you are only sending it to one school. If you're sending it to multiple schools, it's definitely going to save you time down the road. Okay, what if a teacher we want recommendations for isn't going to be working at Glass next year? Can we still use them? So definitely, what you will need from them is an email address. And so you add them as a recommender with their name and their email address, and then they will get the information from Common App and get reminders through their email about how to upload your recommendation digitally. And you won't be able to see that recommendation, but you'll be able to see that it has been submitted. And that way you can still get a recommendation from a teacher that you had this year. All right, here's another one. Does our teacher recommendation have to come from a teacher that teaches us, or could we get from a teacher who runs a club or is a coach? So that would be considered an other evaluator. So if it's asking for a core content teacher, then you should follow those directions. But there's a section for other evaluators, and that would be a great place for someone who is a coach or is a community member, runs a club, something like that. All right, that was a good question too. So I'm going to go back to the question about how many recommenders we should ask for. To begin, it's a good idea to ask for between 2 to 4 recommenders, because you can use those not only on your actual application for admission, you can use those on scholarship applications as well. So it can't hurt to have a few extra. You just want to make sure you're following the directions on the actual application for how many they want or require. All right, what if this is teacher taught you in middle school? So if a teacher taught you in middle school, I would count those as an other evaluator because it's been several years since you had that teacher in the classroom. So I would look for teacher recommenders from this current year or possibly the previous year. But junior year is typically when teacher recommendations are requested. A teacher that taught you in a different year could be an other recommender. Unless, I mean, it could be a unique situation where you've had an ongoing relationship with that teacher, that you may have had them in an extracurricular or something. The main thing is finding recommenders that are going to have something great to say about you and you've got a good rapport with, a teacher that you might have learned something from. Maybe it was a class you struggled in, and so we want the recommendation letters to be able to teach those who are reading your application something extra that wouldn't already be listed in your application elsewhere. All right, here's another one. Is there a way to select a specific school within a college when doing the Common App or Coalition App, like the engineering school at Virginia Tech? So there is, so Virginia Tech uses the Coalition, and yes, Virginia Tech's policy is that major matters. And so they are going to admit students based on their admission criteria along with the major that you selected. So it's a good time to be able to research what your main major would be if you're applying to Virginia Tech, and reading through what the options are and the policies there for applying into their university studies or a specific school. All right, I'm gonna switch over to Coalition here a little bit. It looks pretty similar. It's got a home page. The profile is similar to Common App down the side. Just gotta fill everything in, and the bubble will, and the box will not be highlighted once everything is completed. That's required. And then the college selection feature is here. So Tech exclusively uses Coalition. There's no other way to submit a Virginia Tech application. JMU accepts Coalition, but they also have an application on their website that would maybe not be as involved as the Coalition app, unless you have other schools. Okay, if we don't know what we want our major to be, how can we help ourselves to figure that out? Wow, that's a great question. There are some assessments on Virginia Wizard, and we have some other career and major matching assessments. If you would like to complete one of those, you can go ahead and email your Future Center director and we can link you up with those, or we can have a virtual conversation via video chat and kind of explore what your interests may be. If you want to apply with a specific major, sometimes students will apply as undecided or university studies, whatever that major would be called at the specific schools, and that's okay too. You all are juniors, and we know that you may change your mind. You may not know exactly what major you want to study, but know that you value a college education and want to go to school. And so that's the perfect time to list undecided. Don't feel, that you have to list a major unless you're completely committed to that major. All right, how do you know if a school has an exceptionally good program? So what I like to utilize is the College Board feature. I can try to pull it up. College Board Big Future has a way that you can research what programs are there, what are the most prevalent programs on those campuses. And I'm gonna try it here. If you guys give me a little grace. I'm gonna pull this up. So if you want to type, can you type a school in for me and I'll pull that up for you? All right. Chat bar. So I like this College Board feature because it's a great starting point for learning about what there is. So if you go into majors and learning environment, you can see that all majors here. And then you can see within, if you nest within and click into each of those, you can see more details about the strength of those programs. And here we go, most popular majors, there you go. So that's kind of a general starting point for those. All right. Are there any other questions? It's actually just 1:30 and we've pretty much ended. I feel good about ending on time, but I'm actually open to any other questions that you have also. I'm going to close with a few tips if there aren't any other questions from y'all. All right. Awesome. Okay, these are my short, quick tips for you as you start this process. So let me switch back here. If as you're filling these out, you might see an optional section, and on college applications, optional often means required. So you might want to consider completing an optional section if it can still enhance your application in some kind of way. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have them, just ask them. We would love to help you. Your school counselors are available for these types of questions. That's why we have jobs at the school, to help you guys through this process. And so we want it to be as smooth as possible for you and to be able to really thrive and authentically present yourself in your application. Next step is proofreading. Get somebody to proofread. Make sure we are using proper grammar, using proper nouns, capitalizing things that need to be capitalized. That's an easy way for an application to get overlooked, is simply by not capitalizing proper nouns and using proper grammar. And then my last one is just to be creative. You know, there's certain parts of this process that are very structured and rigid, but if you can throw in some creativity so that our application panel can get to know your personality and who you are as a person, that's a great way for those types of attributes to be conveyed. And so we believe in you guys and are really excited to see the plans that you have for after graduation, and are here to walk you through any steps of the process you'd like assistance with. Here's one more question. Is class rank important to colleges? So class rank is a factor, but it's not the only factor about you. So the colleges are going to look at, of course, your GPA, your class rank, your test scores. Those are numerics. They're also going to look at your essays, your teacher recommendations, your counselor recommendations, and then how you answer the questions. And so at this point, you know, your class rank is what it is. And so what you can control in the application process right now is your essays and your written work within the application. And so just focus on what you actually can control right now and not something that is already set in place, and continue to work hard so that you can contribute towards what you want reflected in your application process. All right, are there any other questions? I'll wait for a few seconds here and then we're gonna go ahead and close out. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, whether you were on our virtual event or through Facebook Live. Love to have you join us again. Every Tuesday and Thursday in April, we have a session with a different topic. So you can go ahead and check your email or follow our social media and you'll see which topic is covered next. Coming up on Thursday is our Stay Close, Go Far Scholarship Q&A for our seniors to follow up with their next steps towards their matriculation after they graduate. All right, well, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.